first item is apologies, and I have apologies this morning from the Mayor for absence, from Yanni Johansson for absence for a part of the meeting, and from Anne Galloway for lateness. I'm happy to move those apologies. Do I have a seconder? Pauline Cotter. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Declarations of interest. I have a declaration from Tim Scandrett in relation to public excluded item 13 and a declaration from Sarah Templeton in respect of a part of public excluded item 14. Item 3, public participation. We have 3 participants in the public forum this morning, the first of which from the Pukeko Centre, Maurice Lawler, the chairperson of the Pukeko Centre Joint Project Committee regarding the Pukeko Centre in Parklands. So, Maurice, if you'd like to come forward to the table, good to have you with us this morning. And you've got other people as well, that's great. And the way this public participation works, you have 5 minutes to talk to the council about any matter you choose to. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to come here this morning to present what is a community project out in Parklands. As I mentioned, my name's Maurice Law and I chair the group. Jane Marnie is with me as part of our organisation group. Look, we've been set up for 4 years looking at and flowed on from the issues that our area had after the Parklands earthquake, after the earthquakes in Christchurch, where a number of groups didn't have facilities available. So we initially looked at building a purpose-built building for our community, and soon after, we've been in that for a while, realised that it was beyond our reach to be able to fund a project of that extent. So then we had the opportunity to looked at other options around, and we came against the possibility of accessing buildings from the Freeville School, which was going to be demolished, and that's when we went up. So Parklands is a joint venture between 2 East clubs in Christchurch. They are the Parklands Bowling Club, which is a well-established club out there, and the Parklands Bowling Club. And you have seen, hopefully you've seen the video on our website that gives a lot of background information. If you haven't, I would encourage you to have a look at it. Together we're building a sport and recreation facility for that community out there, and we've consulted widely over the needs with a whole lot of stakeholders, both community groups and residents. And our aim is to support and connect a healthy, vibrant community by building a multi-use facility and welcoming the inclusiveness of the community as well. This plan is based on 4 stages. Stage 1 is the relocation of a modern learning building from Freeville School onto that site, which we now have there, and we are very near completion of that particular stage. Today the paint is finishing starting the internal painting, and we're on target to open that building in November and a formal opening later on. Stage 2 is we relocated the hall that was at the Freeville School, which we now have on site there, when we will eventually, once funding is provided, put that there, and we'll link the 2 buildings together by way of a breezeway. And stage 4 is the development of outdoor facilities such as courts to enable a complete project there that meets the needs of our community. Stage 1 is this overall is about a $4 million project. Stage 1 is 1.4. We've raised 1.2 at the present time. Stage 2, which is the relocation of the hall, is 1.3 million. We currently got 400,000 relating to that. Stage 3 is approximately 760,000, which is the joining of the 2 together to make a environmentally and artistically pleasing looking complex. And stage 4 is the 600,000 relating to the court facilities out there. So progress right at this particular stage. We have relocated in May those buildings from the Freeville site onto our site, and much to the satisfaction of a lot of the people that were connected with the Freeville site as well. They were really pleased to see their buildings being reused rather than demolition, which was the other outcome. So we work closely with the Ministry of Education to enable this to happen. So that is the building now on our site out there, and which has been completely refitted. In the next few weeks, volunteer labourers will put a big decking around the outside of that, and the internal fit out is underway, and as I mentioned before, completion in November. So the Freeville Hall also is relocated temporarily onto that site at the moment, and currently being restored there, and we are embarking on a funding campaign to put that into operation. So we have a website up and running and a Facebook page which connects the community. We've set up a Give a Little page to enable the community to have buy-in. We've had an information session with all interested community groups, and to be tried on, so we were overwhelmed with the number of people, groups and organisations, not just sporting but community groups that come along and expressed an interest to either be involved in the project or keep an interest in what we're going. And recently we had one where we brought the local businesses along and had an information evening with them as well, sharing that information. So now at another stage of further applications for funding through corporates and funding trusts. We're well down the track of putting in a formal government structure at the moment, and we hope to finalise that in short time, because we do, our aim is to make sure that as well as having an exclusive club, we also need to have a sustainable model for our community. This is not just about two sporting founding clubs, the founding clubs of the bowling club and the rugby club, but it's very much a community club, and we want to be up and running on day one.
Oh. Sorry. Okay.
Great. So you removed the need for us to remind you that you'd come to the end of the 5 minutes, because you clearly took care of that for yourself. But yeah, thank you very much indeed for bringing this presentation to us this morning. It's great to know what you're doing. They will be some of the largest buildings I've seen moved around from place to place, and I think the whole thing is a significant achievement. So thanks very much indeed for bringing us that update this morning.
I do have brochures here on our project if anyone wishes to have a copy.
Yeah, they can certainly be circulated, and I'd also draw councillors' attention to the fact that the electronic version of the brochure and a video was circulated by email yesterday, so there'll be something in councillors' email boxes, but to have a hard copy of the brochure would be excellent as well if you've got them here.
Thank you
very much. Thank you. So our second public participation item this morning is from the Novotel Christchurch Airport, and Oliver Lacour, the General Manager of the Novotel Christchurch Airport, is going to give us an update on the hotel.
Oh, goodness. Sorry, won't be a moment. Okay.
There we go.
So Oliver, good morning. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Good to have you with us, and looking forward to your presentation this morning. You have 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning, Deputy Mayor and all the councillors. Great pleasure this morning to introduce myself and to give you an update of the Novotel Christchurch Airport, where we hope to. Just would like to remember you that the Novotel is a worldwide brand, and there's about 400 hotels in the world, and there's around 34 hotels in Accor hotels in New Zealand, and 9 of those are Novotels. Currently the constructions was designed by Warren and Mahoney Architect. It's a 80 million project, and it's been built in the middle of the car park of the Christchurch International Airport. The hotel is owned by the Christchurch International Airport and managed by In Management. The construction is progressing very well. We have nearly completed the top of the roof of the building, and shortly in the next couple of days, if not next week, we're going to start to put all the glass around the facade of the building, so it's going to look very shiny, very nice. All the bathrooms been made locally with a company from Christchurch. And once completed, and we hope to open the first quarter of 2018, and the Novotel Christchurch Airport will be a modern and very elegant 4.5-star hotel. It's going to be a great addition for all the hotels that we have in Christchurch. Novotel is very well known for, I will say, a very personalized and sophisticated customer service, try to create an easy living experience to all our clientele. And I'm glad to say that we will contribute to the local economy by creating 140 employment. And each team member will be trained to deliver a lasting impression outside of their normal routine, with the empathy that they will bring personality, I will say, to the hotel and the service that they provide. We will have 200 rooms. Those rooms are the latest concept that Novotel has in the world, so it doesn't exist in this part of the world as yet. Very, 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 very nice, very elegant, and very spacious. There will be 10 accessible rooms, and there will be 10 suites as well. And all the room will have wireless internet, air conditioning, and minibar service. All very modern, and yes, as you can see over there. All the rooms will provide high-end guest amenities with fair trade guarantee products, which are part of the Planet 21 Accor sustainability program. Another concept that doesn't exist in this part of the world, the restaurant will be called Food Exchange. It's a concept that we will have on top of the roof of the building. I mean, the last floor, overlooking the runway and the Alps. So it's going to be very much a destination, I will say, for people who want to enjoy a very nice meal. And we'll have like a little central, I will say, point where people will come and enjoy different variety of food, international food, and there will be a lot of live cooking show in the middle of the restaurant. Part of the restaurant as well will be an amazing bar overlooking again the runway of the airport and the Southern Alps, and again it's going to be a great, I will say, addition to the hotel. On the same floor, we'll have large conference facilities, so in total of 11 conference, which totalize about 500 square meters, and all with a view, all spacious and very modern. We can cater up to 260 people in a conference. The hotel will have all the latest technology well connected with internet, and we'll have like a business center available to all our guests. There will be a gym as well. The gym will be overlooking the runway again, so it will be a very, very unique proposal. Part of, I would say, our commitment, we will aim to be, I will say, again, part of the Planet 21 Accor Sustainable Program. We'll have electrical car charging station, we'll have electrical bikes as well, and we'll make sure that our team help, I will say, our hotel to reduce footprint at work all the time. Part of, I would say, our strategy, we want to contribute to the Christchurch social and cultural economic development. Novotel Christchurch Airport will help to grow demand, enhance confidence for visitors to experience a edgy 21st century city, which have a big difference. Novotel Christchurch Airport will work with key partners such as Christchurch Airport, Christchurch NZ, Canterbury Employer Chamber of Commerce, Be Accessible, to name a few, and other organizations which are proud to support local communities and to attract domestic and international visitors in Christchurch. So that's for the hotel, and a little bit about me. I've got domestic and international experience. I just come from Wellington, where I managed different hotels for the last 12 years, and it's a great privilege for me to come and join, I will say, and proudly to say I'm now Cantabrian. I met my wife 25 years ago in California, and believe it or not, she was from, and she's still, from Kaipoi. So she's very glad to be back. And I would like to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself, and I'm looking forward to see you all at the official opening of the hotel sometime next year, early Q1. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed for the presentation this morning. We certainly look forward to the opening of the hotel early next year. And welcome to Canterbury, and welcome to your wife back to Canterbury. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us this morning. Thank you. So our third public participation item this morning is Hugo Christensen from the South New Brighton Residents Association, who will address us regarding suburb boundaries and flood boundaries. And the advice I've had, this is a different topic than the South Shore matters, which are already under consideration by the Council. So Hugo, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. And you have 5 minutes to address the Council. Thank you.
Kia ora, and thank you very much for listening to our concerns here. We are going to split this between us, so you have a little bit of changes between pages. Seamus is going to start. And
so just to introduce myself, thanks a lot. I'm Secretary of the Residents Association, so we have 8 pages here. We'll split them between us, 1 each. Most of the pages are connected with the fact that South Brighton seems to have been excluded from a lot of reports, and there seems to be a lot of confusion between names and definitions for geographical areas. The first page you see here in your copy is from the Jacobs Multi-Hazard Report. For some reason, South Brighton is not mentioned in that, and South Brighton, as you know, was one of the worst affected areas after the Christchurch earthquakes, the Canterbury earthquake sequence. This report may never be released, as it is still in draft format, but it contains very, very interesting information on lots and lots of areas, and South Brighton needs it very importantly for the things listed for proper land assessment, for the definition of the recovery budget, where it's going to be spent, for the use of rates for coastal protection, and for civil defence. A lot of these things have been raised in the past. Over to the second.
okay, when we look at the boundaries, our definition of the boundaries originates from the Council. We were given the definition. It's the south side of Shackleton Street, Marine Parade, and the north side of Caspian Street to the reserves in the west. South Brighton suffered significant subsidence during the Canterbury earthquake. In fact, the land sunk so much that large forested areas sunk into the saline coastal waters. The subsidence was so significant that temporary stop banks were erected up to 120 centimeters higher than the subsided land. Here you see an illustration of some of the worst affected areas. David?
Then on page 3 we have the Canterbury Fact-Finding Project report that was published in August 2011, but it does not include South Brighton, which is again, I'll remind you, one of the worst affected areas. The area covered by the study at the time it relates to were the eastern suburbs of Christchurch along the Avon River, but South Brighton has been left out again. So this was commissioned by the ministry.
The next page is the Mayoral Flood Task Force. It reports on a large area from Pages Road to end of South Shore, and the area is referred to as the South Shore Study Area. It refers to significant land damage, but south of Bridge Street. And we'll leave it at that. We have a complaint over this report in 2014 and so recently as well.
Mm-hmm. The following page is from the Ministry for the Environment, Avon Climate Change Case Study. In this case, South Brighton is not excluded, but South Brighton is located in South Shore. So we've been trying to find where the boundaries are between the different suburbs. This is another example of the confusion that arises if people give the wrong names to the wrong geographical areas. So the assessment of the impacts of sea level rise on floodplain management planning for the Avon River was the subject of the study, and it was prepared by Harris Consulting in conjunction with the Christchurch City Council in 2003. So things like this need to be cleared up so that we know exactly what we're talking about and what budget is being allocated to which area.
Then we go to a document from the Environment Court since 2003, which refers to the cash flow case And in that particular document, there is a map of the South Brighton coastal management area reaching from Turn Street south at the South Shore Spit. This area is commonly known as South Shore.
And the following map is one that we raised with the Community Board over the last few months. These again are two maps published by the City Council. One of them shows South Brighton with extensive areas of the beachfront included in it. That's the one on the left. And the map on the right shows the map that we are familiar with under our Constitution, showing the definitions without extended coastal areas. So this has implications for rates, what rates are being collected for each suburb, what rates are being spent on coastal defence systems, etc., etc. So this, again, needs to be cleared up.
We switch back to the last page, which refers back to the Jacobs multi-hazards report. In the tsunami map on that particular report, it appears that the risk which has been identified in South Brighton is not included on the Jacobs report. This may reflect civil defence responses, etc. And we ask that all the boundaries in South Brighton are revisited in terms of the recovery and the following issues addressed accordingly. The land damage budget assigned according to where the damage occurred, hazard exposure and mitigation communicated and addressed, civil defence response and community awareness of hazards addressed, the use of rates assigned according to agreed boundaries.
So that brings us to the end of the 5 minutes. Thanks very much indeed for the presentation. We can certainly refer this document and the content of your presentation to staff. And clearly there is a linkage between some of the issues that you've raised and other ongoing work. So we'll certainly refer the issues that you've raised to staff by way of this document. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening.
So that brings us to the end of item 3.1, the public forum. 3.2, deputations by appointment, there are none. And item 4, presentation of petitions, there are none. So that then leads us to committee minutes, so items 5, 7, 8 and 9, which I propose to move together. I'm aware that Vicky, as chair of the Innovation and Sustainable Development Committee, wanted to just make a comment regarding the minutes of that committee. Vicky.
Thank you. Just in relation to the stuff that you're deciding is reasonably straightforward and has come from the Development Forum as a means of actually helping the transition in the city and making sure that people can get here and feel welcome here. You'll notice that the minutes refer to a staff briefing on carbon neutrality, and this comes to the council in about 2 meetings' time, because what we had was a briefing on how the city could become carbon neutral and how the city council and then how the city as a whole could work to become carbon neutral. But the information that we had in the briefing is not included in the minutes, so it's quite difficult for you to make a decision on the targets that we would like to set for the city council and the framework that we'd like to set for the city. So that will come to you with a full report in a couple of minutes.
2nd of November.
Yep.
Great, thank you very much indeed for that. So I'm happy to move items 5, 7, 8 and 9, the committee minutes. Do I have a seconder? Sarah? All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So that now brings us to item 6, Innovation and Sustainable Development Committee. Vicky, you made some comments on this. Was there anything further you wanted to add by introduction?
I'm just wondering if Jamie would like to. It came out of the Development Forum, or Aaron might like to. It's basically about working with property owners so that we can make it easy for land that is vacant to be used in the interim for car parking, and to make that as easy as possible for property owners to work with the council to make it happen. It all seemed entirely logical to the committee.
Thank you. Jamie, was there anything that you wanted to add?
No, Vicky's. One thing, and that was just really, you'll recall obviously the 1 hour free parking initiative, which there were time pressures around that for obvious reasons, so that went directly to council. This followed the normal channels of going through Vicky's committee because it wasn't so under the pump with timing. But it's really the second prong to the approach, is that we're not just going to do one thing and then assume that everything else will fix itself. So we do need to communicate and work with the private operators, and this is that second part of it. Yeah, I've probably got a question around B. I just don't know how, if I can actually take this opportunity to almost ask Darren at the same time, is with B, how if opportunities for making long stay parking available for short-term stays after hours and on weekends. Just wonder if there's contractual issues with that, because the nature of permanent parks is that people have leased a permanent park. So I don't know how that one's going to work, but if you've got any comment on it, that would be great. So thanks for letting me double the intro into a question.
Yep, great. That was a nice sequential move into questions. So yours is the first question. Aaron.
Okay, so I think, Jamie, your question, it would probably have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, because there's such a wide range of these off-street parks around the city under various different ownership and lease arrangements, so there's no simple answer to that. But I'm sure if you cast our net wide across the city, that there'll be some things that we can do, and there'll be some good opportunities here for making some of those sites available when they're not being used during the day, especially for things like, entertainment activities, restaurants and bars and what have you. Yeah.
Thank you. Further questions, Dion?
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask if you could explain, I know the report talks a little bit about it, but methods for providing better standard of amenity. You know that I'm a bit of a stickler around the state of the gravel pits in the central city, so maybe we can just sort of let us all know what actually work's going on.
Yep, yes, so there's already quite a lot of work going on in that space. We understand that what some of the things that are occurring around the city aren't conducive to an ideal recovery environment. So the main players, we've been working quite closely with them on resurfacing some of their sites, looking at whether those sites need to be surrendered or converted from, say, commuter parking to short stay, where there's high demand for short stay, and in areas where there has already been establishment of more permanent parking facilities, that those sites are surrendered or used for something else, to try and encourage redevelopment on those sites as well. So we are going through some tidy up exercises, and that should start to become obvious out in the city now.
Thank you. Glenn and then Pauline.
Mine was a similar question, so...
So you're happy?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Pauline.
Just to clarify for me, because I'm not familiar with this, but this will involve paid parking, I suppose, that people will pay for it. And is there any mention in here of using car parks, let's say something like, Ecan that's not used at night, as unpaid parking, but just become available at night time for the restaurants and things down there? Could that be rolled into this in any way? Or?
Yeah, I think that's part of...
it's in here, is it?
Yeah, it is part of...
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So that would be an unpaid part of it. Yeah, that's just a sharing spaces. That'd be good.
Thank you. Any further questions? So Vicky, you're happy to move this? Jamie, happy to second? Okay, so moved and seconded. Is there any debate?
I'm really happy that this is actually going to start helping towards tidying up the central city, especially in those those gravel pit car parks, as the city sort of starts to recover. And actually it's looking really good. There's a good vibe around there, but bringing down the vibe is those gravel pit car parks. And 3 or 4 weeks ago we did a clean up in the central city with Keep Christchurch Beautiful, and the most filthiest places in the central city were the gravel pit car parks in terms of rubbish and stuff like that. So I'm really pleased that as part of this that some work is going to be going on with talking to those owners and the operators directly to actually clean those up, get the amenity better, so that actually people can start to feel a good vibe in the central city. I mean, I think that's just a really win-win for the city. So I'm glad to see a step moving forward in this.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So now moving to item 10, the revocation of delegation. and the report makes this very clear. Essentially, there was a process that council put in place that, because of a number of very practical reasons, wasn't able to be rolled out in the way that we'd anticipated. This relates to the substantive item in the public excluded agenda, largely just a motion around changing the procedure, which is well explained in the report. So are there any questions on this? Dion. So I'll move. Dion, you'll second. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So now we go to item 11, the resolution to exclude the public, as set out on pages 35 to 37 of the agenda. There's nobody that we're needing to allow to remain, so I'll move that we exclude the public for the reasons set out in the report. Mike Davidson will second. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. So we'll just wait for a moment